Perimenopause and menopause get a seriously bad rap. Like your sex drive, it just vanishes overnight. But the reality, it's messy, unpredictable, and yes, frustrating at times. Still, it's also a chance for desire to change shape and find new rhythms. Today, we're digging into the real deal, hormones, mindset, and what sex looks like in this transition.
Yeah, a lot of people hear menopause and they think it means like game over for their sex life or just sometimes even life.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there are varying degrees of symptoms. I don't know that everybody experiences menopause exactly the same. It's variables. So I think that for one woman, menopause could look less traumatic. And then to another, it's absolutely mind blowing. And that fear alone can be paralyzing. And add in all the physical shifts and libido can definitely take a hit.
Once you get curious and understand what's actually happening, there's room to reclaim your pleasure and maybe even surprise yourself, right?
Hmm.
Welcome to Taboo Talks, not safe for brunch, where nothing is off the table. We're diving into real conversations about sex, relationships, and self-discovery with zero shame and a whole lot of sass.
With over 55 years of combined experience in the intimacy industry and plenty of real life lessons, we are here to break taboos, bust myths, and serve up unapologetic, real world education, one brunch combo at a time.
I'm Coralie, tuning in from Vancouver. I'm a married mom with one foot in the empty nest club. My superpower is going deep down rabbit holes and getting to the real root of things.
And I'm Amber. I'm based in Ontario. I'm married. I'm a mom, a GMA, and proudly blunt. I cut through the fluff and get straight to what matters.
I'm Vicki, and I'm from Manitoba. I'm divorced, re-entering the dating scene. I'm a mom to two grown-ups, and my magic is creating real connection because intimacy starts with trust.
Grab your mimosa, your matcha, or whatever turns you on, and let's dive in. So let's talk about the hormone roller coaster and tips because I am like in the thick of it right now. In the thick of it. And it is very unpredictable. Sometimes your desire is really high and spikes. Sometimes it gets really low. And I know personally, I never heard about the desire spiking. And I know that's what's happening here. So don't fear, everyone. But what happens is, it's all like this hormonal change. So our estrogen is dropping. And while that's dropping, we're starting to go through estrogen withdrawal, which is a whole bunch of other stuff. But the testosterone doesn't decline as quickly. So it actually supports the libido staying a little revved up. And then also, too, you can have stress, sleep issues, mood shifts, because mood shifts are huge in menopause and perimenopause. I mean, really, we should be starting with perimenopause because that's when it all begins. But that plays a huge role in your sex drive. I mean, no one's horny in a bad mood.
Right? Well, and that's where I'm sitting right now. And I know I have mentioned it to you guys, and I actually mentioned it to my therapist and my husband. But what I noticed recently is there was a few weeks of time, not all together, but like little pockets of time where I just looked at my husband and it didn't matter what he did. He could have been just sitting there all happy. He could have been eating an ice cream. Like, it doesn't matter what he was doing. I wanted to punch him in the face. He did nothing wrong to me. He did nothing. And I told my therapist this, and I think I mentioned it to you guys, and I was just like, man, so no, will my libido be high and will I want to do things at that moment? Likely not. But I do see it going like waves. It's like, woo, okay. So I do see that that's happening. So I'm not mad about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and my perspective is completely different. I've been postmenopausal for about 6 years now, and my desire and libido, I don't know that it's ever been higher. So I feel like I'm a little bit on the other side of that spectrum. I mean, that second divorce may have helped, but in general, I mean, it's just something that is it's an integral part of who I am now, and making sure that my needs are met is something that is incredibly important to me. And that's post-menopausally, not even
Mhm.
peri. So I
Right.
think that spectrum is very large.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for the most part, what we heard growing up was doom and gloom about
Right.
menopause.
Yep.
And yes, I'm not saying it's all peaches and cream, but it doesn't have to be this horrible thing. I mean, really, they haven't been studying it until more recently. Everything has been based around the male body. So we have just a whole bunch of stuff that's made us feel like it's supposed to be awful. And our moms weren't talking about it, and their
That's what
moms
I was
weren't
gonna
talking
say.
about it.
Nope.
And I
There
know
was
most
none of
authors,
that.
yeah, and what I've heard, and I know there's so many issues that women can have with their entire reproductive system, but I feel like for a lot of the women in my family, there's a problem. We're just going to rip out your uterus. We're just going to get rid of it. And I'm sure that was wonderful for some cases, but maybe in other cases it's not. I've heard about people having bad reactions after that. And so they don't really know what, so we don't know what to expect because it can be hereditary, like in what you go through and your symptoms and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
we're
and we
talking
talk a lot
about it.
we talk a lot about a spectrum on this podcast, and I think that this falls in just one more thing that falls in a spectrum. And I do believe you're right that because women were talking about menopause, the only thing they talked about was the doom and the gloomy stuff, right?
Right.
It was all that they had to draw from. And I
Mhm.
think that now women are so much more involved in their healthcare. They are so much more positively impacted by their sexuality, and taking ownership of that, that it is changing the conversation. I think we're no longer doom and glooming completely.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's interesting? I know I've talked about this book a million times, but the Menopause Manifesto. One of the things that just was a big aha for me in that is when we don't know about something, it's scary, right?
Mm,
So even learning about what to expect with perimenopause and menopause, it makes it less daunting and,
absolutely.
and easier to manage, you know? So
Knowledge is power.
definitely, so if you're listening, great. But yeah, continue learning. So
So everybody needs to read that book, right?
everyone needs to read that book. Yes, The Menopause Manifesto. One reason I really love Dr. Jen Gunter is because she's just talking about her books, and yes, she has like a subscription based, I want to say Substack or something like that, but it's not like she's trying to also sell me like a special pill. So I just
Right.
feel like that gives me a lot more, gives her credibility to me, a lot more credibility. But yeah, interesting. I wanted to just touch on the hormonal thing because I've told you guys, and I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before, that I started HRT in late April. And the reason I started it was for hot flashes, which it totally helped with. I've been sleeping so much better. I don't get the hot flashes anymore. I think I've had one, maybe two. But what I didn't realize until about 6 weeks into it was that I felt stabilized mentally. And that didn't, wasn't until I realized how long it had been since I'd felt
Mm.
unstable.
Isn't that interesting though? Because it took me so long to see and realize what was happening. I would like go through these mood shifts and then I started to pay attention to my cycle. And then I would be fine for a few weeks and I'd be like, oh no, it was nothing, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's happening again. It's happening again.
Mhm.
And until somebody really, and it wasn't even just me that pointed it out. I think I might have been talking to Vicki and then I might have been talking to my therapist. And both times they were like, where are you on your cycle when that happens? I'm
Yeah.
like, right.
That part.
Yes. And I think when people start like learning more about menopause and about what the body goes through, they start to realize, like, oh, I've been in peri for a long time. I'm 50. I feel like I've been in perimenopause since about 35, 38, 35, 38. So hopefully we're done. Anyways, a couple more little tips before we move on to our next area, but I want to make sure that everyone knows to prioritize lubrication and vaginal moisturizer because when your estrogen is declining, that's one major side effect is the vaginal dryness. And I know here in Canada, we have a shortage. I've talked to so many clients, it takes up to a year to get referred to a gynecologist. And in that time frame, things are just getting drier and drier and drier. So please get a vaginal moisturizer. Having a vaginal moisturizer, and I'm not just talking about a lubricant, but a moisturizer will help keep things moist. I mean, it's a moisturizer, but if it continually stays dry, then that's where people are getting into the situation where they feel like their labia is disappearing because it's kind of sucking up as they go through that dryness. And then I've had more and more recently, like every week, I'm getting a message about so much dryness that there's tearing when they wipe after going to the bathroom, that sex is painful. This moisturizer, the Yes Vaginal Moisturizer, it is the one that my clients are loving. We're going to make sure it's on the website. And what's great about this is you can get it in the bottle or you can get it with an applicator. So you can insert it internally. and it will keep you moist internally for up to 3 days. Up to 3
Fantastic.
days.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So, yeah, and then just the other thing I would add on to that is it's really nice for you, just for your mental health, physical, and all that other stuff is don't use your sex lube as your moisturizer, right? You don't wanna get those mixed up in your brain, like health, good times, and that's helps too, but anyways, yeah, and so just be patient, make sure you're moisturizing. A lot of times people will think, or even their doctors will say, "You have a UTI." And it's not, it's just that dryness, because that dryness is that itchy and uncomfortable and burning, right? Anyways, moisturize and experiment with where you feel you're at in your cycle when it comes to your intimacy and your dryness.
Let's talk a little bit about just navigating through some of this because, knowledge is power, as you mentioned. And I think that sometimes we can lose confidence in ourselves and our bodies and who we are as a woman. It just, it really can knock us down. And I think that our body changes, they can shake our confidence. It can make us feel like our bodies are not meant for that purpose anymore. And it can really weigh on us. And sometimes we're gaining weight or sometimes we're taking some HRTs and it makes us feel puffy and it makes us gain a few pounds here and there. And we just put so much effort into that thought process instead of just accepting ourselves as a mature person. Many will find freedom from some of the fears, though, like the societal pressures and pregnancy and all of that. What a relief. That's not necessarily something you can be worrying about. Now, I will say, if you are in perimenopause and you have not received your postmenopause diagnosis yet, don't chance it. That's where those 50-year-old pregnancies come from.
Mhm.
All right, don't do that. It just puts you into a different mindset. So now sex becomes fun because you're not necessarily worrying about everything. Exploring new fantasies or sex styles can open some doors, right? Maybe your body has changed and it likes sex in a different way, in a different position, in a different space, whatever that looks like, maybe with different items. I don't know. I just figure it out and take the time to explore and see what feels right. And menopause isn't a shutdown. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I want people to hear. It's like a rebrand. All right. So sometimes it's got some awkward first drafts and there's a little test and try again and test and try again. But that's the fun part anyway, isn't it?
I think
So,
so. I don't know. I'm not mad about a rebrand.
no, me neither. God, I feel like we just get better.
Right? You know
Totally.
exactly what you like. Maybe you're kind of figuring out what you don't like anymore, and you're
Yeah.
changing it up. That's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you look back on what you did or you liked or didn't like, and sometimes even that confidence level of who we are in our younger years, we don't feel as confident to take control, right? And have our needs met the way we want them met or express that we want things that we want. It just feels great to I call it my give up meter. It's really low. I'm sorry if I hurt your one feeling, sir, but this is what I would like and this is how I would like it and let's collaborate.
I found lately it's just been more adventurous, and honestly, for the last probably 3 years, like, my husband used to always be the initiator, and in the last 3 years, it's totally switched where I'm the one initiating most of the time, and yeah, we're just exploring new things and trying new things, and nothing crazy, but just we've been together since the last century, and we get into kind of vanilla routines sometimes, and we're just trying different flavors, I guess.
I love that. I think that that speaks to that growing together as a couple that,
Mhm.
you're with the right person when you can adjust and modify and navigate through that. I think that that's incredibly cool. It's not something obviously that I have in my life because I just feel like I'm teaching somebody
Mhm.
new something, somebody new something new all the time, but I mean not all the time, but I just feel like it's always like a new page and I'm okay with that too. I love watching people who are in relationships and can really find a way to navigate through the changes. I just think that's kudos, check. Good for you guys. All right. So, there's lots of myths around menopause. And one of them is that it means that we have zero libido. It actually, interestingly enough, around 50% of women report the same or increased sexual desire postmenopausally. I'm here to tell you that's true.
Well, and I think that this number is probably higher if and when we start to realize the mood shifts and the things that are happening with our body. I think that you would find that this is a higher percentage. And the more research that's being done and the more we talk about it, I
Mhm.
think more and more women are going to realize that, oh, no, my libido hasn't really dropped. My mood's a little off. And
Yeah.
it's hard to navigate, right?
And also too, I remember from when we did an episode about the libido, reading some studies, and one of them said that libido for women is typically lowest in their 30s. And I can't remember if it said 20s and 30s or 30s and 40s, but it was basically when you're in your child raising years, right? You have so much responsibility. It has to be like served to you on a silver platter sometimes to get you to focus on sex and desire and your libido. Whereas when you're kind of beyond that stage, or even if you didn't have kids, you're just kind of a little, hopefully less stressful time of your life, then your libido's high. Hey, remember me?
Yeah,
I
but it's
do
having
remember you, friend. Come on.
thanks for
Come
coming
on.
around.
Yeah, I missed
Um,
you.
I think you're right, and I think it's about having more grace with ourselves too as we age.
Mm,
We just accept that there are changes, and as long as we have a supportive partnership, whomever we're with in a sexual way or in a cohabitive way, as long as we can adjust around it, gives us that confidence that we're going to get on top of that. It's no big deal,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, and just make sure you're staying moisturized because you're not going to have
No.
a higher libido if you're in pain, if
Yes,
you're dry and itchy.
that's right.
Mhm.
Totally. So, some tips around menopause and sexuality and feeling a libido boost or maintaining a libido boost is pelvic floor exercises, your Kegels. They can boost some sensation and orgasm intensity. So, just some small little things you can do daily it all adds up, right? Just to support the libido. You can explore new types of pleasure. Try some toys that are designed for midlife bodies, some sensory play, massage oils, temperature play to spark some curiosity. We've been talking a lot about that lately, you guys. So I think it just speaks to, again, being comfortable in your skin and just allowing yourself to figure it out. And of course, practicing open what? Communication with your partners about what feels good and what's different now with your body and even theirs. And just honest conversations are going to build intimacy and reduce some of that awkwardness.
So let's talk about keeping the desire alive when you're having all these mood changes, right? It's like up and down and around the corner, and around the bend, and God knows what's going to happen next. But menopause can bring all of those emotions like crazy, right? So it can impact your desire, and learning to navigate those mood shifts with compassion for yourself, that is huge. It's key. Sometimes I just got to be like, today's just not the day.
Mhm.
That's okay. But then we go back to that communication where it's like, you need to also have that talk with your partner because they might think, well, oh, she doesn't want me anymore, or she doesn't, whatever.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case. You just have to have that open communication where you're like, listen. And I even told my husband, I'm like, I want to punch you in the face today. You did nothing wrong. It's okay. Tomorrow will probably be better.
I just want to know too, anyone listening, because I say I want to punch you in the face too. Like, is this what is the trend on this? How many people say this? Where did we start becoming so much? Because I would never.
I would never either.
It's
No.
like, I want to punch you in the face. Who else is saying that? Vicki, is that your go-to? Or we just like, secretly desiring violence?
Maybe that's the shift in the bedroom that needs to happen.
Yes.
So we wanna also explore new ways to connect, right?
Yes.
Whether that's massage, a little bit of rough play,
Hair
shared
pulling.
fantasies. What?
Hair pulling.
Hair pulling?
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. But also too, with perimenopause and menopause, a lot of people will have like new joint pain, aches and pains, like
Right.
that kind of comes along with it. And you think, holy crap, I'm getting old. But maybe find different tools and aids that can help in the bedroom as well. So, like angled pillows and sex chairs, right? We've all seen it. If you haven't seen it, go on Netflix. Is it still on there? How to Build a Sex Room?
I
It
don't
is.
You
know.
gotta watch that,
It is.
man.
It is. Yeah. I watched it when it came out, but I'm in a rewatch right now. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
It
still
is
there.
so good.
It is so good.
And that could be a really great way to watch with your partner and be like, would you like that?
Yeah.
Would you not like that? Like, it's just it opens up communication to watch something like that because you
Yeah.
see their rooms being created and what they like, what they might not like, and that kind of thing. So I think that's a good way to explore.
I love that show so much. I wanna touch on what you said about, aches and pains. It's really kind of funny because I've been going to the gym a lot more lately because my hip flexor blew out at golf, but it's affecting me in other areas. So I have been strengthening my hip flexor. And I just think, there are things that we can do also that are going to make us feel better physically during menopause, including just, targeting areas that are hurting and strengthening your body and feeling more capable. And I just want to throw that in there.
Ugh, just moving alone. Like, seriously, I went through some really rough stuff at the beginning of the year. I was not moving. I was probably depressed. There was too many things happening.
Yeah.
And just recently I started to go out walking more, and I've actually been walking twice a day now, and it's like, wow, that's amazing what a walk will do.
For your brain, for your body, like
Yes.
for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so as much as you don't feel like it, seriously, force yourself to go.
Yeah.
Agreed.
What's one thing that you wish more people understood about the emotional side of that midlife intimacy?
That it's different for everybody. There is no map, there is no one way, and I wish that more people talked about all the different pieces of it so that women could figure out sort of not what box they fit in. Which genre of menopause are you in? Where do you fit?
Right. Yeah. I have a couple, one is sort of along that same line as I think that we get into this better, worse, better, worse. And it's not about it being better or worse. It's just different. Personally, for me, it's better, but it might not be like that for everyone. So it's not better, worse. It's just different, and it doesn't have to be this black or white thing. There's just a whole bunch of gray area. And we learn that by talking. And the other thing is if you are with a partner who will never go through menopause, they should be listening with you. They should be learning with you. They should be knowing what to expect. And it's important too for you both to learn because they're kind of going through their own thing. They go through hormonal shifts and changes in midlife as well. And when you understand what the other person's going through, it makes you a lot more empathetic. It makes you closer. It bonds you and just makes everything better.
That goes back to that whole thing of having grace for each other,
Yeah.
navigating through it in your way as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it.
Definitely.
Now, just a couple of tips to keep everything moving and keep things intimate. Try new forms of sensuality that don't have to lead to sex.
Hmm.
So think like slow dancing, cuddling, playful teasing, things that aren't leading into intercourse, really. Because if you can just find ways to reconnect, have like a pleasure date with your partner, where you're just gonna connect and there's no orgasm, there's no sex. It might be, tickling, teasing, doing that. It might just be a cuddle on the couch and fall asleep together.
Mm-hmm.
Find ways to reconnect to each other
Mm-hmm.
without the thought of sex. Because a lot of us are thinking, I don't want to do that tonight. But you don't have to get rid of the intimacy if you're not going to do it as often.
Mm-hmm. I also think too that it doesn't even have to be reconnecting. Like it's just connecting. Cause sometimes, I mean, if you've been in a long term relationship, sometimes you might get this feeling like, oh my God, I've been with this person for 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever. Like, how much more can I learn? How much deeper can we get? And then it's not even that you're disconnected, it's that you're connecting, but you start connecting on a deeper level and you're like, holy shit, I didn't even know that we could get that deep. It's just because we're always growing, changing, we're changing. And so if we're changing, we always have things to bond over new things because we're changing, they're changing. And anyways, yeah, I just want to say it doesn't have to be even just
I love that
reconnecting,
perspective.
connecting deeper,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this phase might be confusing and frustrating, but it also is a chance to rewrite your sexual story.
Yeah, and it's okay to not have all the answers yet. I mean, this is a journey. There's no deadline.
And if anyone tells you that it's the end of your desire, you just tell them we said, no.
Mm-hmm. Send them a link.
Thanks for pulling up a seat at the Taboo Talk Not Safe for Brunch table. If today's chat made you laugh, think, squirm, or all three, do us a solid, like, follow, and leave a review. It's basically the podcast world's version of a good tip.
Want more juicy, unfiltered conversations? Tap the link in the show notes and sign up for our weekly newsletter, your VIP pass to what didn't make it on the air.
Brunch isn't just about the bites and bubbles. It's about showing up real, raw, and ready to talk about what really matters. So until next time, keep it bold, keep it curious, and definitely keep it not safe for brunch.